What if the reason your dog does not calm down when you say it's okay is not because they are stubborn, but because you are speaking the wrong emotional language? That is the powerful heart of this article. It explains that dogs do not respond primarily to human words in the way we hope. Instead, they read the full message behind us: tone of voice, breathing rhythm, body posture, eye contact, distance, and even changes in our scent. So when a person stands tall, stares directly, and speaks in a tense, high voice, the dog may hear fear and pressure rather than comfort. The article's deeper meaning is that calming a dog is not about giving more commands, but about learning to communicate in a way that feels instinctively safe to them. This is why the piece introduces the idea of a biological language, one that reaches the part of the canine mind shaped by pack life, maternal comfort, and ancient survival memory. In one moving example, a frightened rescue dog renamed Teo only began to soften when a behavior specialist stopped using loud, human-centered reassurance and instead offered calm posture, slower breathing, and gentler signals. The message is simple but profound. When we stop insisting that dogs understand us on human terms, we finally begin to understand them on theirs. What if your dog has been listening to you all along, just not in the way you think? That is the striking idea behind this part of the article. It explains that dogs do not respond mainly to the literal meaning of our words. Instead, they read the entire emotional message we send through our body. Your dog is not only hearing a phrase like "it's okay," they are also analyzing the pitch of your voice, the speed of your breathing, the tension in your shoulders, the direction of your gaze, the way you move, and even the subtle change in your scent when you feel worried. That is why many well-meaning owners accidentally make an anxious dog even more uneasy. If your words sound comforting but your posture is stiff, your eyes are fixed on the dog, and your voice rises with stress, the signals do not match. To the dog, that mixed message feels confusing rather than reassuring. In a flat in Madrid or a family home in Valencia, the same rule applies. Dogs experience us as a full emotional atmosphere, not as isolated vocabulary. The article's deeper meaning is powerful. To calm a dog, we must stop thinking only about what we say and start thinking about what we are communicating with our entire presence. Once you understand that, everything changes. Comfort becomes less about human language and more about emotional coherence, where your tone, posture, rhythm, and energy all tell the same reassuring story. You are safe with me. What if the fastest way to calm your dog is not to give a command at all, but to speak to a part of them that existed long before training, treats, or even domestication? That is the deeper idea behind this section of the article. It argues that the most effective calming signals are not traditional instructions like sit or stay, and they are not simply rewards used to distract a fearful dog. Instead, they are forms of communication that reach into a dog's oldest instincts, the part of the nervous system shaped by the litter, the mother, the pack, and the need to feel safe before anything else. In other words, dogs do not settle most deeply because they have been ordered to behave. They settle because something in your tone, posture, rhythm, and presence tells their body that danger has passed. That distinction changes everything. A command asks for control. An instinctive calming signal offers safety. For dog lovers in Spain, whether comforting a nervous companion during a storm in Bilbao or helping an anxious rescue in a flat in Madrid, this message is especially powerful. It reminds us that calming a dog is not about overpowering emotion with obedience. It is about guiding the dog back to a biological memory of protection and belonging. The article's meaning is clear and moving. If we want to reach a frightened dog, we must stop acting like instructors for a moment and start acting like a source of calm the dog can feel in its bones. What if the very way you look at your dog is sometimes the reason they cannot calm down? That is the revealing idea at the center of this part of the article, which introduces the soft eye lean-in cue as the first and most important step in building trust with an anxious dog. In human terms, direct eye contact and an upright posture often seem caring, attentive, and reassuring. But in the canine world, they can mean something very different. A fixed stare can feel like a challenge, and towering over a frightened dog can feel like a threat. That is why this method begins by asking the human to lower their body, soften their gaze, and approach from the side rather than head-on. Instead of staring into the dog's eyes, You look gently toward the ear, shoulder, or just past the body, while letting your eyelids relax and your whole posture say, "I am not here to pressure you." The article gives the moving example of a rescue dog renamed Bruno, who had shut down completely in a shelter until a behavior specialist stopped using loud, direct human reassurance and instead offered slower breathing, a lowered posture, soft eyes, and a calm side lean. Only then did the dog begin to release fear and seek contact. The deeper meaning is powerful. Trust begins not when we insist on being understood, but when our body finally speaks in a way the dog can safely believe. Most powerful ways to calm your dog is not a word at all, but a sound so ancient their body remembers it before their mind does. That is the moving idea behind the low-frequency comfort rumble, the second calming method in the article. Unlike sharp commands or cheerful baby talk, this technique uses a deep, steady vibration that echoes the kind of low hum a mother dog gives her puppies while they nurse. For a dog, that sound is not just noise. It is one of the earliest signals of warmth, safety, protection, and being cared for. The article explains that when a person sits beside the dog, keeps gentle physical contact, and hums from the chest in a low, resonant tone, the dog does not simply hear the sound, it feels it. The vibration travels through the body and helps settle the nervous system, almost like tuning an instrument back into harmony. That is why this method can be especially effective when a dog is pacing, panting, or struggling to relax at night in a flat in Madrid or after a stressful day in Valencia. The deeper meaning here is beautiful. Calm is not always taught through control. Sometimes it is transmitted through presence. This method reminds us that dogs do not just need instructions when they are distressed. They need a living rhythm they can trust. In that moment, your voice stops being language and becomes shelter. What if your dog is not being difficult in the evening at all, but simply speaking from a body that is biologically ready for connection, movement, and play? That is the central idea behind the twilight play invite chirps, the third calming method in the article. This section explains that many dogs become more alert, social, and energetic in the early evening, a pattern rooted in their natural biology. So when a dog starts bouncing around the house, asking for attention, or slipping into restless excitement after work, the answer is not always to push calm onto them immediately. Sometimes the wiser response is to meet that energy in the right way and guide it. The article suggests using short, light, playful sounds such as brief chirps, quick whistles, or upbeat syllables delivered in a controlled rhythm. These sounds resemble the kind of acoustic signals dogs use with one another to invite play without creating conflict. In other words, you are not winding the dog up blindly. You are showing, "I see your energy, I understand it, and I am joining you safely." For a dog in a flat in Madrid or a family home in Valencia, this can transform the evening from frustration into bonding. Instead of letting that rising energy spill into chaos, you channel it into healthy interaction. The deeper message is beautiful. Sometimes calming a dog does not begin by lowering their energy straight away. Sometimes it begins by respecting the rhythm they are already in, then leading them gently from excitement into trust, connection, and balance. What if your dog does not wake up grumpy in the morning, but simply wakes up in a state of ancient alertness that your voice can either soothe or intensify? That is the idea behind the dawn reassurance whisper, one of the most thoughtful, calming methods in the article. This section explains that early morning is not emotionally neutral for dogs. At that hour, their system is naturally more vigilant, because in the wild, dawn was the time to check the surroundings, scan for danger, and make sure the pack had made it safely through the night. In other words, your dog may wake already primed for caution. That is why loud, cheerful, overly energetic greetings can sometimes raise tension instead of easing it. A booming "good morning" may feel friendly to us, but to a dog, it can arrive like too much stimulation at the exact wrong moment. The article suggests a very different approach. Lower your voice, slow your movements, and use a soft descending tone, almost like a sigh. The goal is not to excite your dog into the day, but to let their nervous system know that the territory is safe. For dog owners in Spain, whether waking up in a flat in Madrid or a quieter home in Galicia, this can make mornings feel calmer and far more connected. The deeper meaning is beautiful. Sometimes love is not shown by loud enthusiasm, but by knowing how to meet someone gently in their most sensitive moment. With a dog, a quiet morning whisper can become the first promise of safety they hear each day. What if the deepest way to calm your dog is not through a command, but through a moment of shared presence so intimate it feels like saying, "You are safe, you belong, and we are one." That is the powerful idea behind scent-voice integration, the fifth and most intimate calming method in the article. This technique is built on something dogs value above almost everything else: scent. Humans tend to rely on words and eye contact, but dogs understand the world first through smell. Your scent is not just familiar to your dog. It is home, reassurance, memory, and family all at once. The article explains that this method works best when the dog approaches you willingly. Instead of forcing contact, you allow the dog to sniff your hands, your clothes, and your skin, reading the emotional news carried in your scent. Then, with slow, respectful movement, you lower yourself to their level. Begin the same low calming hum used in the earlier technique, and gently rest your cheek or forehead against the side of their neck or shoulder. In the example from the article, a fearful rescue dog renamed Luna slowly learned to trust human closeness again through this exact ritual. Because touch alone had once felt frightening, the combination of scent, sound, and gentle presence became a bridge back to safety. For dog lovers in Spain, whether reconnecting with a dog after work in Madrid or comforting one after a stressful afternoon in Valencia, this method carries a beautiful message. Calm does not always come from distance or control. Sometimes it comes from closeness that feels honest, slow, and safe enough for the dog to believe in completely. What if one of the biggest reasons your calming efforts fail is not the sound you use, but the moment you choose to use it? That is the key idea behind this part of the article. Timing matters. Dogs do not move through the day with the same emotional chemistry from morning to night. Their nervous system shifts with their biological clock, and if we ignore that rhythm, even a well-meant soothing phrase can land badly. In the early morning, many dogs wake in a naturally heightened state of alertness. Their body is prepared to scan the environment, check for danger, and secure the territory, so they often need slower movement, softer tones, and more reassurance. By contrast, in the early evening, many dogs become more socially active, energetic, and eager to bond. At that hour, they may respond better to playful, upbeat engagement before they can settle fully. For dog lovers in Spain, this can completely change daily life. A tense dog in a flat in Madrid at 6:30 inches the morning may not need cheerful excitement. They may need calm, low, predictable reassurance. Later, that same dog in Valencia at dusk may not need a lullaby voice right away. They may need you to meet their rising energy first and then guide it gently down. The article's deeper message is simple but powerful. Calming a dog is not just about what you communicate, but when you communicate it. When you align your voice and energy with your dog's natural rhythm, trust grows faster, and calm begins to feel effortless instead of forced. What if the clearest proof that this calming language works is not a theory, but a frightened dog who changed the moment a human finally stopped speaking like a human and started communicating like a source of safety? That is the emotional force behind this part of the article. To show that these methods are not just comforting ideas, the piece tells the story of a rescue dog renamed Mateo, a deeply traumatized animal who had withdrawn from human contact after severe neglect. In the shelter, he did not bark, seek attention, or move toward people. He curled himself into the furthest corner, trembling so hard that even the volunteers could hear the sound of his nails against the floor. Many well-meaning people tried to help him with treats, bright voices, and cheerful encouragement, but none of it reached him. From Mateo's point of view, all that loud, direct attention only made the pressure worse. Everything changed when a behavior specialist approached him differently. Instead of standing tall, staring, and talking in a high, reassuring voice, the specialist sat low, turned sideways, softened the gaze, slowed the breathing, and used a calm tonal sound rather than ordinary speech. Within seconds, Mateo's trembling began to ease. Within minutes, he lifted his head, looked toward the human, and finally moved closer. The transformation was not magic. It was communication that matched the dog's biology instead of human expectation. That is why this example matters so much. It proves that when a frightened dog is met with the right signals, trust can begin where fear once seemed impossible to reach. What if the real breakthrough in calming a dog begins the moment we stop trying to be louder, clearer, or more human, and start becoming easier for the dog to trust? That is the deeper message running through this article. Beneath all 5 calming methods lies one powerful idea. Helping a dog feel safe is not about controlling behavior from the outside, but about entering the dog's inner world and communicating in a way their nervous system can truly understand. Dogs do not live inside language the way humans do. They live inside tone, rhythm, posture, scent, distance, and emotional consistency. That means a person can say all the right words and still create fear if their body is tense, their voice is high, or their movements feel intrusive. The article asks us to make a profound shift. Instead of delivering a monologue of human reassurance, we must begin a dialogue of instinct. We must notice whether the dog needs softness, stillness, low sound, playful engagement, or quiet closeness, and then answer accordingly. For dog lovers in Spain, whether comforting a rescue in Madrid or soothing a nervous companion in Valencia, this idea changes everything. It turns calming from a technique into a relationship. In the end, the article's deeper truth is simple and beautiful. Dogs settle most deeply, not when they are told to calm down, but when they genuinely feel, through every signal we give, that they are safe with us. The true purpose of this article is not simply to teach 5 clever tricks for calming a nervous dog. Its deeper aim is to help owners understand that real trust is built when we stop forcing dogs to adapt to human communication and start meeting them in the language they naturally understand. The article shows that calming a dog is not mainly about commands or control, but about safety, rhythm, scent, tone, posture, and emotional consistency. By learning these 5 calming methods, dog lovers in Spain can build a more peaceful, trusting relationship with their dogs, especially in moments of fear, stress, or uncertainty. In the end, the article is really about connection. It invites people to move from frustration to empathy, from speaking at their dog to truly communicating with them. That shift does not just calm behavior. It strengthens the bond and helps both human and dog feel more secure, understood, and emotionally close. Sometimes love is not about saying more. It is about learning how to make someone feel safe. The ones who trust us most do not always need perfect words. They need calm, patience, and a presence that says, "You do not have to be afraid with me." If this touched your heart, tell me in the comments. Which of these calming methods would you try first with your dog? And if you want more heartfelt, science-inspired content to help you understand your dog on a deeper level, subscribe to the channel and join our community of dog lovers.